Hello and welcome back, everybody. It is me. It is I, Amy. Unfortunately, Mel had to leave. Thank you so much, Mel, for casting with us. We are running a bit late on our schedule, so she had to go to an appointment. It was super fun to cast with her, but now we are here for our quarterfinals between Team Izalith and Team Oboy. Team Oboy, who we just saw in the qualifiers, and Team Izalith, who we've seen last time in the event. So two teams that have been runner-ups in Tenax previously, or at least have players on them that have been runner-ups. So lots of experience coming through. And the pick and bans for this sets have been pretty normal, just getting a lot of stuff out of the way. First off, Billy, you always go for those specialty killers. Getting Valdez's Trickster out of the way, also a very good decision. And towards the end, both teams have settled on the Dredge, which is going to be played on Midwich. Midwich has had some changes happening to it lately. We still don't really know whether they've been intentional or not, but Midwich just has random chances of pallets not spawning. On average, when I did my own personal testing, there were 4 less pallets spawning every single game than usual, and that is a big difference because it is completely random which ones spawn and which ones don't. So, for example, one team will lose out on the bathroom pallet, which is the music room pallet, which is not the strongest pallet, and the other team might lose out on a guard pallet instead. Or you run to the clock tower and all of a sudden you have no pallets there. We are in the game now. We see DW on the killer. Again, going for a very devious hex-oriented build with Wretched Fate, Ruin, Thrill of the Hunt, and Infectus Fright. Now, I do think that there is a tiny bit of anti-synergy between Infectious Fright and the Dredge, because during Nightfall you don't have a terror radius, which means if you get it down during it... Oh! Brokeman caught sleeping on the gen, giving away the first tag for free and starting the first chase of the game. Now, Lebvi also taking a free tag, trying to lock the locker. Luckily, didn't get caught in the locking animation, but this is now 2 injured survivors in chase. And guess what? This is the empty classroom, which means you don't have a pallet here. Stuck to play this very weak 50-50 pallet. And against Dredge, that is going to be the death of you. Leppy goes down pretty early in the game. Some info for Infectus Fright coming through. W deciding to slug, teleporting, interrupting the gen that Brokeman went back to, which has pretty high progress. Excuse me, it was actually Zimmy on the gen, while Brokeman was getting reset by Valdez. No sloppy bot gen play, which means the resets and pickups against the Dredge will come through so much quicker than you might be used to. And we can see it here. The God Pallet in the... I think it's down 5, didn't spawn, which means our survivors just can't go there. That is pretty unlucky. But DW going for a slack-heavy playstyle, with this build going for lots of injuries, trying to get some Malthinker's Skull value, finding the next chase onto the healthy Valdez, who has this pallet to work with into a very strong window. Does not judge his distance correctly and gives a tag though. Teleport during Nightfall so quick, and one more vault, and this window is going to get blocked by the entity. Meanwhile, Zimi is close to popping the fast generator, working it injured, which is quite dangerous against the Dredge, who also has the Tilling Blade add-on, which basically gives you Sloppy Butcher, but only during Nightfall. It also makes you blind if you get hit. And there we saw some anti-synergy between Infectious and Nightfall. It looks like DW just wants to fully slack this, cutting off Zimi with a beautiful teleport, who goes down quickly after, but again, you don't get Infectious Fright value if you're in Nightfall. DW doesn't need it. Teleports straight onto Leppy's gen, gets forced off it, but no hook stages coming through. DW is deciding to fully slug out this game. I respect it. Levy winning some super important 50s here. This already dropped pallet, but this is going to be the hit coming through again. And with Midwich having less pallets spawn, this War of Attrition is going to be very much inside of the killer. If the survivors can't cleanse the ruin soon, they might be in trouble here. But we have to keep in mind that the resets are quite quick without Slug Butcher in play. Unfortunately, Valdez gets found trying to cleanse the totem. Another pallet doesn't spawn, and this is going to be the first pickup for DW on Trania. Is he gonna hook? Yes, DW decides to go for the first hook on one of his totems. Pretty good hook position if you ask me. And we are abandoning the full slug game plan for now. Maybe we return to it later. So far, the survivors have managed to pop one generator. Most injuries have been healed except for the one on Leppy, who DW finds on the generator. In Nightfall again, which means the teleportation speed is much faster. Your Remnant basically doesn't have a cooldown anymore. And your M1s are going to apply the Mangled Hemorrhage and Blindness effect due to the Tilling Blade add-on. Leppy, good patience on the pallet, trying to win the mind game. And he barely goes down under the pallet. DW teleports away, knows about Nightfall and the power of it. Decides to take another tag on Broken. We can see on the HUD that Zimi is working on one of the totems. Thrill of the Hunt slowing him down massively during that. And these teleports, you just can't do anything against it as a survivor. If the Dredge teleports in front of you in Nightfall, there's nothing you can do. And this, again, could have been decent for Infectus Fright, but with no terror radius, there is no value to be had. Another injured survivor found. DW actually in chase with both Valdez and Leppy in the same loop. This is looking very dire for Izalith survivors. This is quite a blunder. Valdez is able to leave the loop though. Brokeman is being picked up. This slugging strategy for DW is working out beautiful, and the only totem that they were able to cleanse is the Wretched Fate, which makes me think they are trying to work through the ruin and ignore the Thrill of the Hunt. Now we have Valdez on Deathhook. Leppy almost bled out halfway there, and Brokeman does get found injured in chase with the Dredge again. Has this God pallet, it's gonna come down immediately. DW decides to break. Blind coming through, beautifully played. Playing for as much distance as possible. But we do know that this is the empty classroom right here, and you're not gonna have any resources in there. Can Brokeman make it to another pallet? Windows of opportunities showing us no yellow on the map. Never mind, it's actually any means, and we get smashed. Beautifully played. This very unsafe pallet, able to buy a couple more seconds for his team. Uses the 50 on the Remnant and goes down. Great effort, good chase by Brokeman. And W is not picking. He's only going to look for the Nia, get the tunnel out onto Valdez. 3 hooks, 1 kill. That is what we like to see. And again, in chase with another injured survivor. Seeing that Leppy is working the gen, we know this can only be Valdez. Such great game sense coming through from DW, just keeping track of every injured survivor perfectly. And this is going to be the first elimination at 4 generators remaining, 2 survivors injured, ruins still in play. We will have to see quite the comeback from the survivor side, because this is looking incredible for DW. Finds Leppy, the only person working a gen right now, has to leave the loop. Still has 2 pretty decent pallets to play here, but once they come down, they don't do as much against Dredge. Leppy gets the stun, really well played, able to get away, get out of the chase. But DW is happy with this. He knows that he is in a commanding position, with Ruin not having been cleansed, 1 survivor out of the trial. He can take his sweet time and pick his chases very... Oh, beautiful hit through the pallet coming through. Zimi gets tagged there by a bit of ping. and has to make something happen on nothing here. That's going to be a down. Well played by DW, and gets all the info he could ever ask for from Infectious Fright. All survivors scream. No gen pressure. Ruin just having the survivors in its grasp. He does find Jake, who is going for the pickup. DW takes the time to get rid of the resources, breaking the pallet. Tunnel out already eliminated, which means we get to pick another survivor, start working on the next tunnel out. And if you're the survivor team in this spot, there is very little you can do with this aggressive slugging strategy. DW's pressure has just been mounting and mounting, and the survivors have not been able to do anything against it. Anytime they get on a gen, DW is there immediately to interrupt them. And I've gotta say, they got a tiny bit unlucky with quite a few of the pallets just not spawning. This one in particular felt so bad for Valdez in a really early important chase. We know that the music room pallet has been dropped. This is the anti-classroom. No pallet here. This is such frustrating RNG to play with the survivor side. And Leppy just goes into the locker, forces the pickup. DW has all the time in the world. The gens have no pressure. He has so much info. And with one survivor already out of the trial, I think we are actually looking at a 4k4 here. It's gonna take a bit. There will be slugging involved. But there is just not much the survivors can do. The map is so empty at this point that anytime one of them gets found, they just take a hit. And there is nothing they can do to avoid it. Semi, injured, gets the unhook onto Leppy, starting the heal, but DW knows where he hooked the survivor previously. Actually committing onto chase with Brokeman for just a second before he TPs back to the resetting survivors during this very powerful nightfall in this very resource depleted part of the map. Only one dropped pallet. Okay, Chem Trap coming down. Trying to freeze the Frosty Dredge. That is not going to work out. I'm sorry, Zemi. Loses the 50, gets downed in the corner, and DW just keeps up this relentless slugging pressure. Really playing for the 4k4, not going for anything less. Knows all three survivors are injured right now, which means he is in such a potent position right now. And he's just pushing his advantage beautifully. Not able to find the killer instinct during nightfall with the teleport. Zemi gets picked up again, and LabV is able to be fully reset. This is what the survivors need if they want to pop one more gen here. They need to get an uninterrupted reset. They maybe need to somehow get a good chase, even though there's no more pallets on the map. And if none of that is happening, this is going to be the 4k4 for Team Oboy. Let's see what the survivors can do. Right now they have a tiny bit of downtime, with DW just scouring the area, looking for the reset. Using a teleport to potentially get some killer instinct, finding the reset through audio. But it looks like Brokeman is trying to work a gen injured. The survivors realize there's too much pressure. We need to play for the best result. We somehow need to get one more gen done at least. And even if you get one more gen done, as Semi unfortunately doesn't win this pallet, which it's super hard to win against Dread. Even if he somehow wins that and they somehow pop one more gen, a 4k3 is still such a good result for Dread. Now Brokeman and Chase, injured as well. That's a nice window to play here. W decides to just vault it, but Brokeman loses the 50, DW on the double back, and he keeps slugging. He really wants the 4k4, and Ruin is still up, still eating away at any generator progress. This is looking really dangerous for the survivors. If these two survivors get down this close to each other, it's basically game over. Semi, patient on the pallet, does get this done. Unfortunately, it has not been communicated that this pallet has been used up. So he does not have anything to play. goes down again. And we continue the slacking. We know exactly where we down the survivors. We teleport nearby. We interrupt the heal. And we're going until all of them are on the ground, baby. Yep, we hesitant to take a body block because he knows, oh, if I'm injured, that's kind of the whole thing falling apart. We needed at least one healthy survivor here. DW gets stunned again, gets dub tagged. Okay, broke man. Very nice try, buying just a tiny bit more time. And DW has enough of Brokeman's shenanigans, elects to go for the hook. But this does give the survivors just a tiny bit of downtime. Just a moment of respite where they maybe can work a gen for just a bit. Maybe get a reset done, but I think this one's over. DW taking his time, breaking another pallet. Dredge on Midwich is so good at patrolling every single generator. Teleporting into the courtyard here, trying to listen carefully for any progress on the generators, because we do know that one of them is slowly cranking away at the motor. DW finds the injured survivors. Here's Hinato running away from him. Not a lot of distance, no pallets. And finds Brokeman injured, who was working this generator as well. This is pure chaos on the survivor side. And DW is aware of Zimi almost being bled out. Decides to advance the bleed out timer just a little bit longer. Brokeman on this pallet 50. Vaults. Any means fake. Very convincing, but DW doesn't fall for it. And there is one more generator popped by Leppy. A hero play, pushing the result from 4k4 to 4k3. Honestly, that is super impressive that the survivors somehow managed to stall long enough to pop one more gen. I did not expect that. This is a little white silhouette of Jake hiding behind a locker, but during Nightfall, you're so easy to spot for the killer, no matter what kind of dark cosmetic you're wearing. We see another pallet that just didn't spawn. Maybe a tiny bit of frustration coming through on the survivor side as well, because the map they've gotten is really quite horrible. That was always something I really enjoyed about Midwich, which is just the map being very static. You always knew which resources you had available, and if you dropped them, you could communicate that. But nowadays, you just run into a room where you've had a pallet for, I don't know, 5 years of both playing comp, and all of a sudden, it doesn't spawn. Great effort by Leppy, popping the second generator of the trial, but DW with a wonderful result, 4k3 on the dredge on Midwich for Team Oboy. Just going to clean up the mess, find the last survivor conveniently placed right next to a hook. Going to hook Brokeman. Actually, going for the Mori. Dredge Mori, very cool. I love that it puts you in like a pseudo Nightfall, just making the screen look all dark and scary, where you get stabbed by 1,000 suffering entities and fully absorbed into the darkness. Well played, Oboy. Win condition for Team Izalith is going to be 4k4, and that is going to be one hell of an uphill climb for the team. Very interesting to see Infectious Fright coming through. Again, I do think there is some inherent anti-synergy with the perk and Nightfall removing the terror radius from Dredge, but DW made it work and got a ton of value from it. And the only totem that the survivors elected to cleanse turned out to be the Wretched Fate. So had they gotten Ruin, maybe the result would have been different. But of course, the Obsession is able to see which one the Wretched Fate is. So maybe it was an intentional decision. Now, I'm going to say that this rule set is definitely in the favor of the Dredge. even though you get some perks like Smash It, which sometimes you might not see on the Survivor side. But just having Thrill of the Hunt allowed slowing down the cleansing of the totems that are oh so powerful on the dredge, it just becomes so suffocating for the survivors. And as we saw, an early 3v1 was all that DW needed to get a stranglehold onto these survivors and methodically win the game at 3 generators remaining. Really impressive killer gameplay. Now, the teams will be setting up the lobby again. And what Team Izalith needs, or what Team Oboy needs to do, is just play your safe pallets, drop the ones that you have, hope you get good RNG, drop those guard pallets, extend the first chase, and then you basically win the game, right? So Izalith's killer is under a ton of pressure. They have to play hit and run. They need to get early resources out of the way. They need to get good RNG. They need to get quick downs. And they need to slug twice as much as DW, which I don't think is even possible. So it's definitely very, very tough for us survivors. But we can't count them out just yet. We know that Izalith is a very strong team. We've seen them play before. But it is just so frustrating to see comp games played on Midwich, and I think it was very easy to tell that this game made a huge difference just based on pallet spawns, because our survivors were taking the chases to the right spots. They just ended up in rooms without resources that they couldn't have known about previously unless they were running windows. And it just feels frustrating. It's gotta feel bad to have 2 god pallets not spawn. And we're going to see Dustin again. I'm wondering if that is going to be a fan favorite. Probably not in comp, but definitely in pubs. Going to be a menace on the Bada Bada Boom perk. And 11 will also be entering the trial. Beautiful. It's always so exciting to see new survivors getting added to the game and the comp community immediately picking them up or leaving them in the dirt. I remember Orella being very, very popular at the start. She was super quiet. And I think she's found her place in comp, even though she's a bit niche. She's still being played. Not too sure about Dustin and 11, though, just based on cosmetics. They are wearing some very bright outfits. But hey, if you have a favorite, you should play them regardless. No matter the reputation. Last match we saw Nazan absolutely juke on the Sable. So if you like a character, just play them. Send it. The teams are loading into the match. And I've talked about everything, right? It's going to be super tough for Izalith. Let's see what kind of build the killer is going to bring. On the Mycelium Nightmare Deep Rift version. Yes, a much more... that is another comp cracker going off. Unfortunately, the prompt to lock the locker did not appear. That is -1 cracker right there. We're seeing a very standard build coming through from Valdez. We have Ruin, Sloppy, Eruption, opting to not run Scourgehook Pain Resonance, just based on how unreliable Scourgehooks are on Midwich. And Valdez is deciding to take it slow, maybe catch a survivor off guard, charge up a bit of that Nightfall, but is waiting in locker. And our survivors are matching the pace. They know if they take this slow, maybe outweight Corrupt, don't have a bad early chase, they are in a winning position already. As Nazan does get found, not on the Sable this time. Does have windows though, just to know which pallets are actually in the trial and which ones aren't. Loses the 50 there, well played by our killer. And we already see a big difference in the pallets that have spawned, because this one's up. is our killer going to commit? Guard pallet comes down, gets broken immediately. This is a pretty long chase, but DW gets found. Dustin in chase, no pallet here. This is going to be a second tag. Good movement, actually. Delaying the tag coming through by just a tiny bit. And no toilet pallet. Goes up the little secret ramp towards the music room, but Valdez is happy just taking the tag with Sloppy Butcher, trying to get more pressure, committing to a chase onto Mathis, who has good pallet and a very good window to play here. Oh, beautiful patience and the Remnant mind game. Gets the pallet drop, runs into a bit of a wall, didn't get the blind there, I think. And does pay for it with a health state. Good teleport by Valdez in an area where pallet has already been dropped. And this one is super unsafe against Dredge. It's unsafe against the most killers, but against Dredge especially, nothing Mathis can do. Goes down and is going to go on the hook as the first stage. Meanwhile, on the hut, we can see Nezan and DW resetting, while Rez is cranking out the first generator, but it did get interrupted. Valdez choosing a great teleport there, good game sense. Chooses the exact locker that he needed to TP to. Resets coming through. Again, Team Oboy, they are in control, they're playing the slow, and this is exactly what they need to do. Holding good distance, spotting the killer early, unhook coming through, followed by a quick teleport, but the locker is locked. Nezan camping the resource while Mathis makes use of the borrowed time, getting a lot of distance. And now he just leaves the loop. Valdez can't really do anything about it. Does he get the hit here? Yes, hit through the pallet coming through. That is exactly what Valdez needs. Has to abandon the chase quickly again. And Ruin just left the trial. He did have Eruption in his back pocket though. But that one does rely a lot on downs coming through, rather than having the passive slowdown. Valdez using way more teleports while out of Nightfall, which makes them much more predictable for the survivors. Because they're just so much slower. Goes for the swing on the window, but unfortunately misses. And we see another reset coming through. The survivors really just playing for health states, trying to not use too many resources, taking it slow on the gens. Because they know their win condition is so easy to achieve. And it comes down, but this 50 is in favor of the Dredge. Rez takes a tag, and Valdez decides to leave the chase again. Now, in theory, I definitely agree with the hit and run playstyle. I was saying that a lot of slugging would have to come through. Nice, beautiful hit through the pallet again onto DW. The problem is, if you want to slug, you need to get it down fast. Now, Nightfall is the time when you want to make that happen. We do see on the hut that a lot of progress is being made on this generator. Fast generator pops. DW unfortunately goes down, and that is at least 2 generators at high progress. Can Valdez find another one? Goes for the slug. The whole survivor team has reset. They're not greeting for that one high progress gen. Finds 2 survivors, so just barely not able to interrupt the reset. Gets the empowered teleport from the Nightfall onto Rez, but Rez calls it, double backs early. Valdez has info on all survivors right now, decides to go for another easy tag onto Mathis, who does not have this pallet anymore. But without Ruin, oh, this might be a bit of a blunder. Luckily this locker is in fact locked, but Valdez still knows where everybody is. Our survivors need to spread out now. Azan trying to go for the pickup. Gets a beautiful pallet stun. Valdez deciding to break the pallet and finally go for the pickup onto DW, knowing that his pressure is running out with all these resources coming through. You need some point of pressure on this map. This is another generator that barely has any progress. Anuk comes through. I'll swing at a locker that wasn't locked. Probably just a bit of nerves, knowing that this win condition is slowly but surely slipping away. But huge credit again to Lepvi for just popping the second generator, making this not completely unplayable for the killer side. But Math is now stuck. Oh my goodness, that is the third hit connecting through a pallet. Valdez on that premium ping. Mathis goes onto the hook again. Second stage, we do see 2 survivors walking on Jen. Rez still injured. Giving some additional value to the Malthinker's skull. Because if you are injured against Dredge, and if you stay injured, your Nightfall is going to charge up so much faster. And of course, the idea in the Dredge set is to have that much pressure that you don't give the survivors an opportunity to reset, making your Nightfall so much more accessible. Free tag onto Nathan, almost a grab. Able to interrupt this generator at around 80%. Still 1 person on the hook. This is good. This is good for Valdez. Finds the scratch marks of another survivor. This is a gamble. But it does pay off for the survivor side. DW able to get the unhook. Mathis taking the body block with the base kit BT. Valdez deciding not to wait out the 15 seconds. Just swinging into the endurance. And Mathis has to make this count, but DW is here for the double block. Double block? Okay, I'm losing it. Beautiful body block through from DW. And Valdez knows my gens are slowly being repaired. I need to drop this chase. Even though it's a death hook survivor in mending state. Finds Nazan. Gets caught out on the gen a tiny bit. No pallet here. Valdez gets another down. Eruption coming through. Now he needs to find the reset on the survivors. Killer Instinct giving him some valuable information. And he does find Mathis, who is on death hook and basically caught out on nothing. He has nothing to play for. Just a very, very weak vault. Using his distance really well. Tries to just send it through the remnant. Valdez does not get fooled by that. The elimination coming through onto Mathis. Oh my goodness. He actually has to drop the survivor just to make sure the last generator doesn't pop. And it was so close to popping too. This is such a horrible situation for Valdez to be in. You have the survivor dead to rights, but you can't kill him, because if you do, you lose the game. Super frustrating situation to be in. He just needs to get a force leg here. Rez gets grabbed out of the locker, going to get put on the ground immediately. Never mind, we're actually going for the hook. Meanwhile, Mathis has been picked up and reset through Sloppy Butcher. Reset coming through onto DW as well. Valdez with the teleport, finding the sneaky Nia in the corner. And Mathis just, beautiful window fake. Gets away with murder. This pallet is very, very unsafe against Dredge. Double vault, loses the 50. Well played by Valdez. Now, does he have time to pick this? He should. He just got the eruption. He knows one survivor is hovering, knows another one is on the hook. How much gen pressure could there be? And he's completely right. Finally, eliminates Mathis from the trial. Well played. TP's back to his hook, because throughout all this, Rez was still left hanging. But I don't think the second stage is going to get secured here. Because Valdez is also concerned about his generators. Finds Nazan. Stealthing close to a locker. Nazan does have decent distance, but this locker is in fact not locked. Drops the pallet, gets the stun. No ping this time. And is able to extend the chase. But again, we find ourselves in this very unsafe vault. This is a bit of a dead end as well. This locker perfectly placed to cut off the survivor. Valdez is actually making quite the comeback here. It was crazy that he made the call in the first place to slug the Death Hook methods just to protect this gen from popping. And it was such a close call, and it worked out beautifully. And now he's actually in a position to bring it back and get the tie condition. Finds DW. DW has a bit of distance and does have a pallet to play. Pallet comes through, no stun, we take the break. Cheeky little moonwalk from DW. Good to see some confidence. This is funny, both teams actually did have this pallet not spawn, making it fair in the weirdest way. Wins the 50 and the Remnant mind game, beautifully played. Another window fake, not successful this time. Anok coming through onto Nathan. Valdez takes a tag onto DW. Drops Chase, the reset has already come through. Now, since Ruin has been in play for a while, and Eruption has not been used that much just yet, this gen is not close to the regression limit at all. No entity spikes showing up yet, which means it has been regressed less than 4 times, I'm pretty sure. But Valdez is able to see 2 survivors here patiently waiting in the locker. Guys, don't mind the smoke that is coming out of the locker. It's not scary, I promise. And this patience buys him another tag onto Nazan. And he's the Nightfall again. So he's doing such a good job and managing his pressure somehow. Getting these Nightfall procs so frequently, even though the resets are coming through. And this is going to be another down onto Nazan. Valdez deciding to make the most out of his Nightfall, leaving the survivor on the ground, trying to pressure more generators while he has this charged up power, the faster teleport. And again, it pays off. He finds DW working a gen injured. This pallet has been depleted earlier. The vault does come through in time. Can DW make some magic happen? He just runs straight through the Remnant, wins the 50. This locker again in the perfect position. A tiny bit of stutter is not going to change the outcome of this chase. DW goes down. Nizan gets picked up. Valdez knows where everybody is and finds 2 survivors in chase yet again. Elects to go for the healthy survivor. Because if everybody is injured, every small mistake matters so much more. Any path to the window? No, does take a tag, unfortunately. And I'm super impressed with how well Valdez is able to keep up the pressure here. Goes for the second hook onto DW. Just always using the Nightfall to its fullest potential, going for as much pressure as possible, and only picking up when the Nightfall is over. And at this point, it is definitely looking like a tie. The survivors don't really have the time anymore to meet up for a reset. They don't have pressure on gens, and they don't have any pallets left on the map. So Valdez going from a gen at 95% back to being in the driver's seat. And now with DW being on Death Hook and injured and in chase, this might spell the end for our Dustin here. Another beautiful teleport. DW on the check spots. Good patience, but we've seen survivors die on this very pallet area. We're going to see it again. Beautiful hit. Eruption procs, and we do see the aura of Nazan. Valdez immediately drops, leaves the slug on the ground. More eruption value onto Rez. He is able to get the 4K3 here. That was incredible. Now, we do have a bit of a teleport cutting off the access to the survivor, and this is going to be a 4K3 for Valdez after such a tough early game. So many tough decisions to be made. And in the end, the tiebreaker or the deciding factor is going to be which team had the faster trial. And I'll be honest, I didn't keep track of the time. But I'm sure somebody from production will be able to tell us who is winning the set. This couldn't have been any closer. And I'm not faulting the survivors of Team Oboy in any way. This was not a throw or anything. This was just really clutch decision making by Valdez. And exactly knowing the limits of his killers, of his generators, of his resources, knowing when to drop chase, when to hook a survivor, when to leave them on the ground. Dredge masterclass. I did not expect this to be a tie. Sorry that I have to leave you hanging here. I'm waiting for confirmation from the staff to decide which team won this trial. And with that, moving on to the semifinals tomorrow. Of course, when I'm solo casting it, it has to be the most slug heavy dredge set of all time. But hey, I still had a wonderful time. I wish I had something to yap about right now, but it is just the teams trying to figure out who won by time, which is not what you wanted to come down to. Again, this my MVP for this is Leppy, for just somehow managing to pop the second generator for Team Izalith. And Valdez's killer performance was just really, really impressive. And I'm not saying that to discredit DW in any way. I was praising him the entire time while he was playing killer. It's just so well played, but just overcommitting a tiny bit onto one chase, allowing Lepvi to pop the gen. We have gotten the confirmation from the staff. Team Izalith wins by time by roughly 30 seconds, moves on to the semifinals. Well played to both teams. GG Oboy, GG Izalith. We're gonna see Izalith tomorrow. I hope we're gonna see Oboy in the next tournament. That's going to be it from today from us. Thank you so much to everybody who was watching. Thank you so much to the staff, the referees, to the producer, Alma, to Mel for casting. And thank you so much to our sponsor, Crack Media, for making all of this possible. We will be back tomorrow, 7:30 CET, for the semifinals and the grand finals right after. I hope to see you there again. I'm Emmy. Have a wonderful rest of your night.